This is the end of my favorite trail at 360 Bike Park, Overtime. This is a gap jump trail that's rated a black and a half, between a single black and a double black. I can definitely agree with that rating, but I would say it falls more towards the double black diamond side. In this week's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a progression video on this trail. This trail took me one full day of riding to complete, which may not seem like that much compared to my other progression videos, but remember, I don't live that close to here, so we were here for over 6 hours. Without further ado, here's the progression on Overtime. So, the first jump. What are my thoughts on it and how easy is it? Well, I was nervous because in the circle at the start, you have to do a few circles pedaling to get up enough speed, but once I did it, I actually overshot it the first time, so it wasn't that bad at all. The reason that I was nervous to hit this first jump had nothing to do with size. All it was is because there's no case pad on the landing. So the second jump, I think it's the easiest one on the trail, for 2 reasons. The first one being that you have a really great approach, and the second one being you can practically roll it because it's not much of a gap. So the third jump follows in the second one's footsteps. It's a pretty easy jump that turns, and the lip is pretty mellow as well. I didn't have any real fear of hitting the second jump or the third jump, just because they were kind of small. The third jump is also built pretty well, and I could tell that just by looking at it. So now let's talk about the fourth jump. It comes right after the berm, right after the third jump, and that's the reason that I was nervous, just because the berm, I have a hard time maintaining speed. With some great fear in my mind, I decided to go back up and hit it. If you look on GoPro, you can see that I have to pedal a couple times after the berm. So just a quick recap of so far. The first jump isn't that bad, same with the second one and the third one. The fourth jump is a bit sketchy, and I've been casing it a few times, but other than that, it's been smooth sailing. Here's a shot of me coming around the berm, and you can kind of see that I'm not landing that far, because that time I didn't give it a pedal. I also had to pull up like crazy. Now I'll move on to talking about the fifth jump. Here is where you start getting a little bigger in the jump sizes. I kept on casing this fifth jump a few times, but I think that's because the lip was soft when we were here. The lip is fun and the landing's not too shabby. The approach is also pretty good because you have a bit of setup time after the berm. After the landing, you have a nice, really fun roller that gets you into your sixth jump, which I will now start talking about. I had very little fear of hitting the sixth jump just because it's like a shark fin. It does come right out of the berm out of nowhere, but that does kind of make up for the difficulty that the gap is pretty small. The landing for the sixth jump is kind of weird because it's a bit soft, but I think that's just because of it was dry, but that's the only problem. From now on, I'm going to be talking about all the jumps in order, and I'm going to be going less in depth. Just because I had one really good run where I felt like I could hit a bunch of jumps in a row, so I hit 9 more jumps in a row. Right here is where there's another spike in the increase of size. If you look at this jump, this is right after the sixth one, and you can see that it's a pretty big gap. These jumps right here, I think, are the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and they're all really big gaps without case pads. These ones I wasn't nervous about because remember I did these all in one run, but they all do feel pretty good. I especially like the 7th one because the landing is just great. The transition from after the 7th jump to the berm is just really fun, and there's also a super sick roller right after that you can actually get some air on. This section of jump is super flowy, and that's really what I like about it. From here I'll talk about the next few, and it keeps getting better and better. In this long shot, you can see that I'm just winding my way down the hill hitting these jumps. All these jumps are just super fun, and I didn't really have any fear of hitting these ones either, just because I hit them all in one go. I do have to say, the jumps on the second section of the trail are just built amazingly well compared to the first section. The first section jumps are still built well, but these ones just have perfectly carved lips and landings. After that one really good run I had, I stopped right here, and this is the second one that I did. On my second one, then I finished every jump on the trail, all the way until the end. As the jumps get bigger and bigger, so does the space between them. To be honest, the jump that I was least scared about is the biggest one on the trail, and that's the last jump. It looked so similar to the second to last jump on Paramount, so that's why I had absolutely no fear. The last 3 jumps are definitely the most flowy, and you go the fastest into them. Therefore, they're my 3 favorite jumps on the trail, in a row. So this video has been a progression video and kind of a review, so I guess I will give the trail a score. My final score for Overtime at 360 Trails is a 9 out of 10. This is definitely a fair score to give Overtime, and the only reason that I'm taking off a point is because some of the lips and berms are a little bit weird, but that's all. I think Overtime's main strong point is definitely the quality of its jumps. These jumps are really well crafted, and that's pretty much why I like the entire trail. As always, I'll show you guys the full trail. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.